Hi, boys and girls. It is time for our Native Americans. I hope you enjoyed it yesterday when we got started. So today we're going to talk about just one tribe of Native Americans and buffalo. And I know we talked a little bit about buffalo yesterday because it's something that Native Americans ate. They hunted and they ate and they used all the parts of the buffalo for their daily life. So we're going to read about that right now and learn about them. So get comfy because you know this takes a few minutes. Are we ready? Okay. So we have our map, and this is a map of the United States. And this green part are the Great Plains of the United States. So that means it's kind of flat, it's kind of open, and there's mountains on this side. And here we are over in Idaho, in Gooding, or Shoshone, or Jerome, or Wendell, but we're all right about in this area. And so we're kind of close to the Great Plains, but not quite there. And the Native American tribe that we're going to talk about that lived in this green area in the Great Plains are called the Lakota Sioux. And the Sioux there's a couple different tribes. There's the Lakota Sioux, the Dakota Sioux, and the Standing Rock Sioux. But today we're going to read about the Lakota Sioux. And we're going to learn about the buffalo. And like we talked about, if you've been to Yellowstone and maybe even other places where you've seen buffalo, a lot of you have said before that you have seen buffalo. So we're going to talk about buffalo because not today, but years and years ago when the Native Americans were still living out in the plains, the buffalo were in huge herds. Like we see big groups of cows in pastures, we would see big groups of buffalo that lived together. And they were very important for their way of life. So the buffalo are huge animals. And so when they would run together in their herd, it would feel like an earthquake. A herd of buffalo would thunder by, their hooves would be crashing, and it would make the ground shake because they're so big and so strong. And with their heads down, their big, huge heads, and their big horns forward, and their eyes glaring, these beasts were frightening and they could be dangerous. But it doesn't look super dangerous right there. But if they're running at you and mad, they could be very dangerous. And here is a picture of Lakota Sioux. I don't know if you can see them, but there's a group of hunters headed out on their horses, and they're riding in between the buffalo. So let's get started. Into their midst charges a group of brave Lakota Sioux warriors on horseback. Each man has a spear or an arrow ready. He will shoot as soon as he gets a bow's length away, almost close enough to reach out and touch the buffalo. Both of the hunter's hands are busy with his weapons as he clings to the galloping horse by strength of his leg muscles alone. So they're riding their horses are running, chasing the buffalo, they're only holding on with their legs, and they're shooting their arrows or their spears with their other hands. Lakota Sioux hunters shot and killed only as many buffalo as they needed for food. That means they didn't waste. Because they used the buffalo for food, clothing, shelter, and tools. And the buffalo killed during the hunt were divided among everyone in the tribe, including people who were too old or too sick to hunt for themselves. To have a successful buffalo hunt, both men and horses had to be well trained. It took months of hard work to get a horse ready. The horse needed courage and speed to run through a rushing herd of buffalo, because it could be scary. So you had to have a brave horse that would run through those great big buffalo, because they're even bigger than horses. And so they needed a horse that had courage to ride through the herd of buffalo, that could even come face to face with a stomping, steam-breathing, hairy beast. Horses were trained to stop immediately at the nudge of a rider's knees. Not every horse was brave and fast enough to be chosen for the hunt. So they could only take the best horses for their hunt. And not every boy was brave and fast enough to be chosen for the hunt either. Boys begin training for buffalo hunts at a young age. They learn to ride horses well by the time that they were 5 years old. So like you guys, 5, 6 years old, you would already be training to go on a buffalo hunt. Could you imagine hunting buffalo? Whew. And they didn't hunt when they were 5 or 6, but they were training. They were learning how to be really good riders, and we'll talk about more because they played games and stuff to get ready to be good, strong buffalo hunters. They held riding contests to see who could ride the fastest, jump the highest, and shoot the straightest. The winners were allowed to ride with the scouts who searched for buffalo before the hunt. So before they would go out to hunt, they would send scouts out. That means that they would go out and look to see where the buffalo were so that they would know where to hunt. And boys needed lots of practice shooting at moving targets. They learned to be quick and agile. Agile means to be able to move quick or easy by playing games with hoops and poles. Round hoops made from bent branches were rolled along the ground. As the hoops, there's a picture of it right here. As the hoops spun down the hillside with the buffalo speed, the boys aimed their poles through the center of the hoops. Something called rawhide was wrapped around the hoops that the boys used for target practice. Rawhide is the tough, hard leather made from buffalo hide or skin. And rawhide was used by the Lakota Sioux for many things. So they would use the parts of the buffalo to make things for their games and toys and all kinds of stuff that they used every day. And the Lakota Sioux made drums and rattles and buckets and ropes from rawhide. Boiled rawhide was even used to make special glue. They didn't have glue sticks, so they needed something if they needed their materials to stick together. The buffalo gave the Lakota Sioux almost everything that they needed for life on the Great Plains. Rawhide was pretty tough, but the Lakota Sioux discovered that they could soften the hides, turning them into soft leather for many more uses. And what do you think that could be? What could they use soft leather for? They could use it for their clothes. From this soft leather, the Lakota Sioux women made moccasins, cradles, winter robes, bedding, shirts and dresses, pouches, and dolls. Because you wouldn't want rough, hard material on your skin, would you? No, that wouldn't be very comfy. So they made their leather nice and soft, so it was comfy for them to wear. They also used their rawhide for building their teepees. The Lakota Sioux often painted beautiful designs or pictures on the buffalo skin that they used to make their homes. This illustration shows a teepee in which the Lakota Sioux painted on horses and buffalo. So they would set up the teepees with their teepee poles and wrap the hide around the teepee, and then they would paint them and decorate them like we like to paint our houses. But we don't usually paint animals on the side of our houses. And the bones from the buffalo were made into knives, arrowheads, shovels, and scrapers, and awls. A kind of awl is a needle that they used for sewing, and paintbrush handles. And the horns, the buffalo horns, were used for cups, spoons, ladles, and toys. How many of you are going to drink out of a buffalo horn for lunch? Probably not very many of us today. But that's what the Native Americans had to use. And a part of the buffalo's muscle is called sinew. There's like long, stringy parts of your muscle. And they would get the buffalo sinew, the stringy parts of their muscle, and they would use that as thread for stringing bows and arrows. And the buffalo hair was used for headdresses, pillows, ropes, and ornaments. I don't know if I would like my pillows to be made out of buffalo hide. But if that's what I had and it was warm, I probably would have liked it like they did. And that's probably what I would have used. And this picture, it's kind of funny. It looks like ground beef really up close, like taco meat that's cooking. But it's not ground beef, it's buffalo. The Lakota Sioux certainly knew how to make or get things that they needed. Think of all the ways that they used every part of the buffalo. Nothing was wasted. Even the buffalo meat lasted long after the hunt. So this is buffalo meat cooking. The Lakota Sioux often made stew with fresh meat. They also dried the buffalo meat to eat in the winter months, like jerky, when food was harder to find. The Lakota Sioux pounded this dry meat and mixed it in with buffalo fat and made a tasty snack called pemmican. I don't know if it's tasty, but it was tasty for them, and it kept them healthy and strong. For the Lakota Sioux, the buffalo were sacred. That means it was treated with respect. It was very special to them, and they took good, and they were careful to not waste the buffalo because they knew that they needed them. And if they took more than what they needed, they knew that one day they may not be there if they took more than what they could use. So the Lakota Sioux said special prayers to the animals before hunting and killing them. Every year they performed a special ceremony called the Buffalo Dance at the start of the summer buffalo hunting season. And the Buffalo Dance ceremony is something the Lakota Sioux still perform today. And so even though that they're not hunting buffalo like they used to, they still respect the buffalo and keep that tradition, and that's why they keep dancing. All right, so we are done with our pictures, and now we are going to move to our worksheets. So in your packet today, you have a buffalo coloring page. I don't need to tell you how to do that, but I would like to see your buffalo look like buffalo. And so color them very nicely in the lines. Take your time. And then we have 2 worksheets that we will talk about the directions right now. So our first worksheet, the directions right here on the side, so if your moms or dads need to help you read them, it says circle the items that might have been made from the parts of the buffalo. So let's look at our pictures. First, we have a picture of moccasins. You know what? I'm going to pause for a second. Miss Barrett, will you come pull sticks? And we will. Oh, I can give you that. Oh, Miss Barrett is sitting here with us, running the camera.
I am.
Doing a good job. Okay.
All right.
So we have moccasins. So who's our? Addison, do you think moccasins were made from buffalo? Yes, they were. They are made from their buffalo, from their hide. Good job.
All right, Bella.
Our next picture is a drum. Do you think a drum was made from buffalo? Yes, it was. We had a picture of it, didn't we? So I hope you circle that picture.
All right, our birthday boy, Dennis.
Okay, Dennis. Does fruit come from a buffalo? I don't think so. Nope, fruit comes from a tree, so we don't have to circle that one.
Piper.
Okay, Piper. Our next picture is a horse. Does that come from a buffalo? Nope, they rode horses to get buffalo, but they didn't come from a buffalo. Okay.
Kendra.
Okay, Kendra. We have an arrowhead. Does that come from a buffalo? It does. Do you remember the picture that showed all the arrowheads, saying that they use their bones to make arrowheads with? So we're going to circle that arrowhead. And let's come up here to the teepee.
Ezra,
do you think that the teepee came from parts of a buffalo? You are right. Absolutely. It came from their skin. So we are going to circle. Okay?
Adeline.
Okay, Adeline, we have a picture of Lakota Sioux in their winter clothes. Do you think that that came from buffalo? I think it did. They used their hide with the hair still on it to keep them warm in the winter.
AJ.
Okay, AJ, we have another picture of a teepee. What do you think? I think it came from buffalo also. So we are going to circle that teepee. And we have a picture of, making a fire.
Ledger,
do you think the sticks and stuff for making a fire came from a buffalo? No, the firewood comes from trees, right? Not from a buffalo.
and Carter.
Okay, Carter. Here's our last picture. And we have the frame of the teepee. Does that come from a buffalo? Nope, you're right. It doesn't come from a buffalo. Those are poles. Those are from trees, but they're not from the buffalo. Okay, so all of us should have our pictures circled. And you followed along, and then we have one more worksheet. I'm going to move it up here to the top so everybody can see. Okay, the directions say, color each picture when it is described in the read aloud. So when we were reading out loud, think about how we described it, and you can color all those pictures, and then circle the item that you think was most interesting when you were listening to the story. So what was most interesting to you? What was most interesting to you, Miss Barrett?
The drums.
The drums.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to circle the drum for Miss Barrett. And I like the buffalo part. So we are going to circle the buffalo for Mrs. Rogers, and you circle your favorite. All right, boys and girls, I hope you had fun, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good night.